What does it mean to be rich? How can you achieve financial freedom? Stop working for money and make money work for you? Today we're going over the best 10 ideas from Rich Dad Poor Dad. What's up guys, Clark from ClarkDanger.com. Today's book is on finances, actually the number one personal finance book of all time. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And this is not the book I first got from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I ordered it online in college, and I was really excited for it to get here. I remember waiting, checking Amazon where it was on its way, and it arrives, and I'm like, there's no way that this is the best-selling book of all time. It's this big. This is the pocket version. This is all I got. But don't worry, I'm going over the big one today. And we got 10 best ideas from that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Came out in 1997, and since then, I think it's 26 million copies sold is what I had down when I was researching it. And before we get going into these 10 ideas, I want to say, first off, I want to say two things. First off, I'm in no way a financial expert, CPA, whatever. These are just some ideas I've been applying in my life from this book. But do your own research. I'm not giving any financial advice here, okay? I'm just regurgitating what's in this purple book. But it does make a difference, trust me. Since reading this, it's changed the way I thought about things. And that's the second thing I wanted to say, is that the reason I like this book is because it's all about mindset. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not top 5 stock picks of 2016. It's all about investing in your mind. And that's the thing that everyone tries to shortcut. And that's why a lot of people are broke or poor. Because they don't invest in their mindset. And that we're going to go over it, but there's a thing called financial IQ. And the higher your financial IQ is, basically your intelligence when it comes to finances, the more money you will make, have, keep, and pass on to people when you leave. So that's why I like this book. Not a get-rich-quick scheme. Let's dive into it. The 10 best ideas from Rich Dad Poor Dad. So starting with the first idea, models for wealth. Now the title, Rich Dad Poor Dad, you can kind of imply that there's two dads there, and it goes over Robert's upbringing in Hawaii, and that he had his biological father that was poor and taught him all this stuff about money. And he had this rich dad who was kind of more of a mentor to him, who was a self-made entrepreneur who was rich and told him pretty much the complete opposite of what his poor dad told him. So he had a choice. Who do I listen to? I got conflicting information here. Of course, he went with the rich dad, taught him a lot of things he later put in this book. This first one is that we have models for wealth. And just like there was a rich dad and a poor dad, we pick up a lot of things on our finances, what we believe about it, from our parents, or how we were raised, or the people around us. We need to become conscious of that because sometimes, not all the time, we have poor examples of how to use money, how to save, how to invest. Or we don't have any models at all. The biggest point there is that money and finances are learned. Financial IQ is learned. It's acquired, just like anything else. It's just like health and wellness. You don't grow up intuitively knowing what to eat. You kind of have to learn it. You have to navigate it in this modern world. Things are different. We got ingredients that weren't used 10,000 years ago. Our whole food supply is pretty much different than it was. So you have to learn to navigate that, and okay, now you're healthy. Well, if you never learn that, and rely on other people, what happens if they're gone? Like if your mom gave you healthy food growing up and then you're on your own in college, they call that the freshman 15 for the reason, right? Now you have to learn it on your own. But you figure it out, or maybe you don't, and you end up with a lot of health problems, obese. So that's an extreme version, of course. But the same thing kind of applies with finances, that we need to learn from models. We need to educate ourselves. The next big point is a quote. It is saying that you're broke, not poor. And there's a difference, that being broke is temporary, being poor is eternal. I love that because, again, going back to mindset, before we start getting into the nitty-gritties and tactical information you can apply of this book, to set it up in the broad picture, that you might not have a lot of money right now. That's fine. I mean, I'm in no way rich. I'm in no way wealthy. But the one thing I did do is take that piece of advice when I read it in college and immediately switched my mindset from, I'm not poor, I'm broke. And that poor is a state of being. Poor is, I can never afford it. Broke is saying, how can I afford it? I'm willing to work for it. I need to get creative. I need to get innovative. I'm going to make it happen. But right now, it's just reality is I'm broke. All right. Poor is saying I'm not the kind of person who can ever have the house, the money, the car, the whatever. Broke is where you can, you just don't have it yet. I hope that's kind of clear. All right. Next point is financial freedom. Robert says that we essentially have two choices in life. The first one is work really hard, save part of our paycheck, pay taxes, and then get taxed even more on what we save and withdraw from that. All right. And that the second option is that we can invest in our financial IQ, learn how to invest, learn how to use money, learn how to become wealthy, and do it that way. So the kind of flipped phrase here is that the poor and the middle class work for money, the rich have money work for them. And that's kind of the whole premise of the book, is getting your mindset switched from income is wealth, that you need to go to your job and make money that way, versus investing as wealth and using your assets to generate the wealth for you. Now, of course, how do you get the assets? We'll dive into that in a little bit. But how do you get the money at first to buy money that makes money? It's a little more complicated. It's oversimplified. But essentially, that's where it comes. That's what the book comes down to. Robert Kiyosaki says to people who say, I'm not interested in money, or money isn't everything. He says, if that's true, why are you working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for it? That's the reason a lot of people have a job. And some people work for passion and whatnot, obviously. But people, they have the daily grind. They go into work to pay their bills, got to pay the bills. So he says that, look, invest in your financial IQ. And if you get to the point of where you're smart enough about money and managing it, you can not go to work and you can work in other ways. So point number 3 with financial freedom, how do you become financially free? Last quote from Robert Kiyosaki on this. Says, wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Or, if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? So if you stopped going to the job, how long could you survive for? And that if you want financial freedom, you need to have assets that either pay you in interest, pay you in dividends, accumulate that you could sell, that would basically say you don't have to work for the rest of your life if you stopped today. And then you work out of fun, okay? So my goal with this, with financial freedom, is to create online courses, online businesses, to create passive income, to utilize 24 hours in a day while I'm sleeping, instead of just clocking in, clocking out for 8 hours a day. All right, the next point is touching on financial IQ, saying that schools teach us how to work in a job, but not how to get rich, not how to get wealthy. And even if you go to college and they're teaching you about the economy, or you go to business school or business class or a wealth management class, a lot of times, at least in my school, the professor teaching it wasn't even wealthy himself, because if he was, he wouldn't be teaching that class. So basically, there's nowhere out there, there's no class traditionally that'll teach you to be rich. And that financial IQ, if you do want to be rich, if you do want to be wealthy or have influence, that's really what money is. You need to take it upon yourself to learn and invest in it. And that's what financial IQ is all about. And it's actually comprised of 4 things, Robert says. That these are the 4 things you need to study to become to raise your financial IQ. The first one is accounting. So the ability to read and understand financial statements, basically income, outcome, taxes, all that. The second is investing. So the science of making money on money, creativity combined with strategy and formulas to do so. The third, understanding markets, the science of supply and demand. So science of supply and demand, investing there. And the fourth one is law, understanding taxes and avoiding lawsuits, because those are both ways you can lose money, takes from your nest egg. So understanding a little bit in all of those will help you avoid things that take your money away. We've all heard stories of athletes, professional athletes, who get a lot of money, and on paper they're rich. But what happens when you follow up with them 5 years down the road? They sold the house, they're bankrupt, they don't have enough money to pay the bills. And so basically throwing money isn't going to fix the problem. Even if you have money, if you don't know what to do with it, it's just going to be gone. It's just going to come in and come out. So if you have the financial IQ to where you know what to do with that money, now you can hang on to it and keep it and stay wealthy for longer. It's kind of like the analogy I use with money is like, the lap band surgery some people get to lose weight. Well, it's where they put a band around the stomach, and so I think how it goes is that you think you're full sooner, and then you eat less and you lose weight. And they eventually take that band off, and a lot of people gain the weight right back. And you see them a year later in like the tabloids or something, and they're just as big, if not bigger. Well, why was that? Because they didn't get at the root cause there. In other words, they gave them kind of an easy out, and then they didn't learn, and so they went back to the same results as before the treatment. So it's the same thing with money. If we won the lottery tomorrow and we didn't have the financial IQ to manage $2, $3, $5 million, well, who knows, really? This is speculation. But in 10 years' time, we might not have that $5 to $3 million, whatever the lottery is, because we don't have the financial IQ to even know what to do with it. So it slips through our fingers. We gain the weight all back, so to speak. Anyway, moving on. The next point is EBSI. These are the 4 things that we can be in life. And I'll throw up a chart right here on EBSI. This stands for employee, business owner, self-employed, or investor. And these are the 4 possible paths for us. We can be a mix of all 4. So starting with employee, basically you have a job, and you use your time to generate money. Business owner, you got some leverage there. You get people to work for you, and they generate your cash. Self-employed, again, it's a job. You own a job, so you're still trading your time for money. And then investor, you own investments. Your money works for you. So Robert says that we should be in the B or the I class if we want to become wealthy. You don't have to be the next Bill Gates. You can invest in Bill Gates, all right? So finding ways to invest in like the stock market or index funds. Finding ways, if you want to be a business owner, maybe buy an existing business. How do you do that? Maybe saving up enough money to get a down payment on that. So I'm not going to go over those strategies in there, but those are the 4 possible things that we can be. And he basically says, look, if you want to become wealthy, you can't be an employee. And self-employed, you still have to trade your time for it, for the most part. So focus on being a business owner or an investor, and that's going to get you on the path to becoming wealthy. The next point is the difference between assets and liabilities. I'm going to show you a chart at the end of these 2 that'll put all this in perspective. An asset is what Robert says, know what an asset is, acquire them to become rich. So for most people, their profession is their income. Assets are things that are going to make us money. Make us money when we sleep, make us money over the long term, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, income generating real estate, royalties, basically anything that's going to appreciate, go up over time. That's an asset. Robert says the key to becoming wealthy, again, is to accumulate these assets and have them appreciate over time to the point of where you can use those assets to buy other assets and buy other assets. And that's kind of the theory behind the 1%, right? You've heard of the 1%. Maybe you're in the 1%. And actually, globally, the 1%, I think if you earn over $34,000 a year, you're in the 1% globally, which is kind of cool. Of course, it's all relative, but the reason that 1%, 99% of the population controls the wealth or whatever it goes, is because their assets are so big, so massive, that they make money on money. And they have the financial IQ to do so, so good for them, right? I read somewhere that Harvard, talking about assets, Harvard has enough money in their endowment funds to give a full ride scholarship to every single student for the rest of their university life. So basically forever at full capacity, and not lose a single dime. They would still be making money. So that's how much they have in assets, that it keeps making money, on the interest. And that's how the whole snowball keeps going, to use that analogy. You start small and then it gets bigger and bigger and compounds itself. And that's what Einstein said was the 8th wonder of the world, is the power of compounding. So to wrap that up, assets, huge, big idea of this book. frame your mind into how do I accumulate assets. Robert also says the next point is liabilities. Know what a liability is. A liability is something which takes money out of your pocket. So he says reducing liabilities and keeping your expenses low are the two best ways to become wealthy as well. So accumulate assets, keep expenses low, and minimize liabilities. One of the best pieces of advice I heard in college was it said grow your grow your income, not your lifestyle. Absolutely love that. So basically, if you get a raise at work, maybe, I'm not giving advice here, this is just what I apply, maybe instead of that raise going towards more money, more problems, getting a bigger house, getting a bigger car, getting a bigger hamster wheel, whatever, maybe investing that raise of an extra $5,000 a year and staying at your same lifestyle level. I also got the advice that I've been applying. Clark, learn to live on 75% of whatever you make, and that other 25% is going to go towards investing. And that's been a huge difference that's moved the needle for me in terms of my financial independence. Moving on, the power of compounding. Why the 1% get richer, compounding. We touched on that when we were talking about assets.
Suppose two investors have portfolios worth $100,000 each. Both use compounding to grow their portfolios 6% per year. Let's see what a difference 20 years can make. At the end of 20 years, the $100,000 principal would have grown to $320,713. Now let's see how much the other investor would have earned. As you can see, the additional 20 years of compounding resulted in the principal growing to $1,028,571. That's more than 3 times the return of the other investor.
The next big point in this book of Rich Dad Poor Dad is to pay yourself first. So it says each month when you get your paycheck, before you do anything, before you even pay bills, before you buy groceries, before you pay taxes, pay yourself first. Let's say you get a check for $500. Boom, set aside a certain amount of that that's going to go towards your financial independence asset fund. So, let's do $1,000, nice even round number. If we were living on 75% of our paycheck, so $750 goes to everything else, $250 goes to assets, and keep doing that over the long term. Because, really, if we think about it, it's not about the money we make, it's about the money we keep. So if we're making $100,000, but spending all 100,000 of it, how much money do we make at the end of the year? Not that much. But if we're making even $10,000 and we save 10% of it, at the end of the year, we're making more than the guy who made $100,000 because we saved $1,000. So I know that's an oversimplification, obviously, but again, it's not about the money we make, it's about the money we keep. And that, cost of living's going up. Retirement, if you do want to retire one day, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, that's going to have inflation with it too. So we really do got to start saving earlier. And the earlier we do it, the better off we will be. Robert takes it to the extreme and says, pay yourself first. And that people say, Robert, what do I do if I come up short? I can't pay my bills. And he says, that's good because now you have a challenge to come up with creative ways to make money. And I think he was talking about in the book of how someone had that in a seminar. I came up short, I paid myself first, now what do I do? And he said, okay, well, you have money if you need to pay your bills, but try and do that as a very last resort. The guy scraped together enough friends, enough money to do a car wash, and they made like an extra $1,000 or something. And that was how they paid for it. So coming up with creative ways, if we're broke, not poor, is a good way to pay ourselves first as well. All right, the next step, number 10, big idea, is getting started. These are the action steps kind of from the book, stuff I've been doing in my own life to grow my financial freedom. Again, not financial advice, guys. I came up with 10 right here, and we'll go through them. So the first one is do not buy investments before you invest about learning about investing. Fancy way of saying that financial IQ, we can't do anything until we start to raise it and educate ourselves about what's a good financial decision. Number 2, every day is a choice. Are you going to be poor or broke? Every dollar is +1 or -1. So are we moving towards financial freedom or away from financial freedom? Every choice we make, every dollar we spend, that's a choice. Okay, so always framing that when we make purchases. The third one is learn to live on 75% of your paycheck. Went over that. The fourth one, pay yourself first. Went over that. 5, choose your friends carefully, who you hang around, right? The average of the top 5 people you hang around most, we know this, that if your top 5 friends spend everything they make and they're broke, well, you might be the 6th. But if you hang around people who are investing, talking about these kinds of ideas, whether it's in person or online, if you surround yourself with that as much as possible, if you talk in the community page down below, wherever you're watching this, on Facebook, on YouTube, what have you, you're surrounding yourself with those like-minded people, that's going to elevate and average you up. Great piece of advice as well. Number 6, if you do invest, be an Indian giver. That's what he says in the book. Oh, so on PC, Robert. To be an Indian giver, always ask, how quick do I get that back? So if you want to be a sophisticated investor, 101, how quick do I get my money back? That's what he's saying. The 7th tip, I use mint.com. It's a really cool app that uses beautiful graphics, 100% free, uses beautiful graphics and shows you kind of where you're at during the week, month, year with your income and output. You can merge like 5 different bank accounts. You know, if you have investment funds, if you have a couple different bank accounts like I do, it gives you one even number for it all. That's mint.com. Really good website. The 8th one is Charles Schwab. That's what I use. You can buy index funds on there. If you don't know, individual stock trading takes a lot of time. This is something I've kind of researched, so that's why I'm putting it there. 9 is Money Master the Game. It's a great book by Tony Robbins. We'll probably do a book summary of it. It's thick, but this is one of my favorite resources that is written in plain English. And if that's the next book you read besides this, I think you'll be pretty well set up on investing in your financial IQ. That was a great book I read in 2015, I think. Phenomenal. I'll link it down in the description too. And then the 10th one is teach it. That the best way to learn something is to teach it. So if you have a point from this video, post it in the comment down below and elaborate on it. Okay, which one did you like? Teach it down below. If you heard something in this video, share it and post a comment about that. Or maybe don't share it, just talk to someone around you about financial IQ or Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever. But basically having these kinds of conversations, talking about it more and teaching it is a great way you can incorporate these ideas into your life. That's it, guys. Rich Dad Poor Dad, phenomenal book, Robert Kiyosaki right here. Of course, it's linked in the description below. And if you want something for free, 11 Questions Change Your Life is the free ebook I put out. Thousands of people have done it. These are the best 11 questions that can really change your mindset around things if you do the work on them. And all you have to do is put in your email. It gets sent right to you. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here next week with the book, Steal Like an Artist. Austin Kleon, 10 Things Nobody Told You About Being Creative. It's already laid out for us. Big 10 ideas right here. All right, that's it. Stop settling. Start living. See you later.